Obviously, a small percentage of parents were also concerned about loss of learning time, but at the same time, it's like if you're missing a full day of school, you're also missing like a full day of school. So, and those interruptions can be disruptive to students because it's just a random day off of school, whereas a half day, you're still getting at least some educational content.
So we got some parent responses, and I'd like to explain some of them. So the first response mentions that full days increase the length of school years, and full days off can be very disruptive, along with some other parents said that half days are easier to get childcare for. Another response mentions that the longer full year gets in the way with family time.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? Full day, I can't read that. It's too small for me.
Sorry.
The last sentence was a full day would...
A full year would get in the way of family time.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next slide, the first response that says that half-day PD days would allow special time for teachers to go to meetings, reducing the amount of missed class time. And then finally, the other response also mentions the disruptiveness of full PD days. This parent also mentions that if we continue to have full PD days, it would be more beneficial to have them on Fridays and Mondays. And this parent is also concerned that the data that is being used is not recent.
So what are the benefits for parents to have half days? Well, many parents did say that the full days off in the middle of the week on a Thursday, it's unpredictable and it's really difficult to get a day off of work or to just get childcare for a random day in the middle of the week. So many preferred, if it does have to be a full day, that it would be on a Monday or a Friday, just so it would be easier for them to have childcare or at least get a day off of work. Also, many mentioned that it would be easier to get childcare for 10 half days over 5 full days off. Another parent also pointed out that having half days for PDA day would result in the school year ending sooner, meaning that there will be more time for families to spend time together. Parents also said that half days would be less disruptive to students' learning because they would be in school that day and still be learning.
Okay, so in the parent survey, most of the parents that answered this were had elementary school age students, and most of them wanted half days because they said it would be easier to get childcare for that day. And the main concerns were things that would be easily addressed, such as will lunch be provided and will buses be there. And a majority of the responses said that getting childcare would be easier for half days than full days. And they preferred half days because it would be less disruptive to students' learning in the full year, and it allowed more family time in the summer. And along with that, we looked at other schools who had different calendars. And so the first one is Lexington, the school year for next year. And the first day of school is on August 30th, and the last day of school would be June 14th without any snow days. And the next one is Woburn for this year. And the first day of school was September 8th for them. And the last day of school would have been June 22nd, but they had the additional 5 days, so it was June 29th. And Belmont for this year is the first day of school was September 7th, and that day was also an early release. The last day of the school without any snow days would be June 16th. And they have half days on every half day they had would have been on Wednesdays, which would make it easier and more consistent for parents to get childcare for. And the last calendar is Bedford, and their first day of school, this is for next year, their first day of school would be September 5th, and the last day of school would be June 14th without any snow days. And every Wednesday they have a half day, so. And thank you for listening.
So, does anybody have any questions?
Who would like to start? Would you like to start, Ms. Marsardo?
Did you guys ask the teachers what they thought about the half days?
We did not, but we know that some teachers are in favor of the half PD days.
We also didn't want to like survey teachers because we didn't want it to seem like, oh, we want half days and this has to be done. So like we didn't want it to be like rude or anything.
Fair.
I think we mainly wanted to also focus on like the community because we're more active in that part of or on that end of the spectrum when we're talking about this too. So I think it was easier to connect with people like parents and students to talk about this.
It looks like you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, you mentioned that you had 159 parent responses, and they were mostly elementary, mostly being 80%. Do you have a general?
56.3% of the parents had children in elementary school.
Okay. And how many, I didn't hear you mention how many students responded.
I think there are about 60 to 70 responses.
60 to 70. And do you have any, did they have to say if they were 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade?
No,
Yeah.
it was just overall.
Okay. Did you have any initial comments? Okay. This is, I think, a really important conversation. I'm glad that we're talking about it. It's something that we've talked about a lot with the teachers. It's interesting to hear what this survey gave us in terms of parent preferences and student preferences. I do want to point out that I think there's a basic missing piece of information to people answering this because, and Mrs. Monaco, correct me if I don't get this right, we currently have 4 full professional development days after the initial at the beginning of the year, and Dr. Conte, keep me corrected here too. And so, first of all, if we were to not use those and have, it would be probably 8, not 10 professional half days. That would be, that would cut into our learning time on learning. And the state requires 900 and some amount of minutes for elementary school, for middle school.
900 and 990.
900 and 990 for elementary and for secondary. If we take 8 half days, we would not be in compliance with full amount of learning on time. So we would have to keep those 4 days. There would be no shortening of the school year. And I did notice walking around the school this last week, do you want school year to be shorter? Which sounded like a bit of a leading question for a survey, but the fact is that we couldn't make the school year shorter if we had 8 half days because we wouldn't have enough time on learning. So is that something that you folks were aware of, or was it something you included in your consideration? It looks like you have an answer for that.
So we did like discuss this,
Mhm.
but we didn't realize that it would have been 4 days and not 5 days.
Okay.
Because we thought like 5 days would have been like throughout the entire year.
Uh-huh.
But we didn't realize like it would be 4 throughout the year, 5 would make it like 1 before. But we did like discuss this a little bit, and
Mhm.
we were thinking like maybe we could start the school day a little earlier, like 5 minutes each day, like the schedule was before. I don't know if that would be possible, but it was just like a thought we considered.
Okay, well, and I think that is the way that it's important to think about it, is if we take learning time away, that we have to put it somewhere else. So it would either be those 4 other days at the end of the year that there wouldn't be, or would we have to extend the school day? In fact, I don't know the exact numbers for all the school districts that you were comparing us with, but many of those school districts have longer school days than we do. So there's a lot of technicality and numbers that would have to be looked into, and those are the kinds of conversations that we've had with the teachers also. How do we maintain our minimum number of minutes learning time versus the other. For me, as a school committee member, the most valuable part is, what are the reasons why parents prefer half-days or full days in terms of how it impacts the family. So that was very helpful to hear what people's concerns were and what people's benefits were, too. Go ahead. Yeah.
I just have a question, sorry. And I teach history now.
Yeah.
So remember, I'm sorry, this is my, so if we did, if it was 4 half-days,
yeah,
it'd be 2 days of learning time we'd have to make up, not 4, right?
Well,
because 4 half-days is just,
okay, rather than get into the numbers, because you mentioned 10, and I wanted to point out that it wouldn't be 10, it would be 8. And so the exact, that could be worked out, No,
I was just sorry, it was the math, and I'm bad at math.
So I'm not quite sure what your question is.
I think she's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you were saying that.
You wouldn't have to make up 4 whole days. You'd have to make up more time.
No, but we would, if we take away 4 full PD days, we would then want 8 half-days. Is that right?
Yes.
So there would be 8 half-days.
Right, 8 half-days, right, so 4 days, right, okay.
Okay?
Sorry.
Got it? Okay. All right. Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Thinking back to when I was in school, I can understand why you'd like half-days. It's always kind of nice to get out early and go home and have that time either to study or whatever. But the biggest point in this discussion that Ms. Simon brought up is that if we were to make a change like that, we would have to lengthen all the regular school days, or have more than 180 days in a year, and no, everybody has to go to school 180 days. And you have to have the right number of hours in the classroom. So we have to fit that in. And if we were to change the model, we would have to lengthen all the regular school days by some amount. I don't think 5 minutes would do it. We have studied it. When we do negotiations with the union, we've looked at many other towns and we've looked at their days. I think Lexington is anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes longer each school day than Burlington. So that's, another question that might be worth surveying. Would people be willing to go to school that much longer in order to have a series of half-days instead of the 4 days distributed throughout the year? But in general, I just want to tell you, you've done a great job, and that thinking about these things, being part of the community and working, you're never going to forget this stuff. You learned it, you've done a great job, and I think it's a nice start that you've all come in here and talked to us, and I hope that other groups do that as well with their projects. This is a fun event for us, and it's great to hear from all of you.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
You may want to ask on the internet machine here. Does Mr. Brooks or Ms. Bond have any questions for the students?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
She's good.
And Mr. Brooks, you can still hear us okay? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, yeah, just one question. So, as you engaged in this exercise, what statistically did you work out to be an acceptable sample size to vet out your findings, to say, hey, these were truly what the community wants, and how did you go down that road to analyze your data to make sure you had the right capture for what you're trying to present to us?
Again, did you understand the question? How many surveys did you send out, and how many responses did you get? We know you got 158 back, but did that meet your expectations, I guess,
Well, I know a lot of people for Civics Project hang up those like paper around the school, like with the QR code. But myself included, I don't stop and get out my phone and take a QR code and fill out like a long form.
Right.
So I don't think we reached like our expectation of like distributing our form properly I feel like if we like had a more, it's just hard to like engage high school students like in a quick, easy way because I don't think they really want to take time out of their day to do something extra.
And I think on top of that, like going into this project, like I think our main goal was just to get like at least like some engagement. Obviously, like I think this definitely was an area where we could improve on. Like if we were to take this any further, we would have more outreach. But I think considering we were just working within the school, I think we were like pretty happy with the numbers we got from at least students, and also more parents interacted with the surveys than we thought.
Yeah.
So
I think we definitely got more than we expected for parents, like especially with the help of like putting it in the Burlington Buzz, which got a lot of like responses overnight basically, and I think those were really, really helpful.
So again, Ms. Carey, I just want to say great job, so thank you. And students, you guys did, again, awesome work. And
I
it's...
have another comment if you wanted to, if you're wrapping this up.
Well, I just had a couple questions
Okay,
myself,
go for
but
it.
Madam
Go
Chair, I
for
will
it.
defer to you.
No,
So,
I don't mind if you go as long as we don't.
Ms. Carey mentioned a whole bunch of other possible topics. Why this one is what I sort of, you mentioned, or were those projects that other students were doing?
No,
or?
we don't tell them. We don't tell them the projects.
No.
So they're supposed to choose their own topic.
I understand that. I'm asking why this one, as opposed to like the girls' locker room at the Ice Palace. I'm just saying.
There's quite a few of those.
I know, but I'm saying I was just wondering why this topic, because I think it's an important one. I was just wondering why.
I think it's definitely something that like even before like freshman year, like when these like would happen, I think like I remember having conversations about, oh, like I feel like there's a better way than just having like a random day off. So I think it's something like we've thought about before, like aside from having a project assigned. So I think it was something that like it was easy to get engaged with and like work on getting other people engaged into it too.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, sorry. Also, I think this is like a topic a lot of people can like elaborate on, because like with the girls' locker room and stuff, like it's only like to a limited amount of people.
Yes.
So I feel like this was a big topic that needed to be covered in a way, and we could still get like a lot of feedback from a lot of people.
It just, I think that's a great answer, and I think it does impact lots of folks, and just it's just interesting to me from a policy perspective, which I'm sure this class is very interested in. One word can have such a really big difference. So in Massachusetts, the word is we have to go to school 180 days, and for high school students, and 990 hours. So it's an and. In New Hampshire, it's 180 days or 990 hours. So it's an interesting, that one word can make a big difference in all of your lives from a policy perspective. So it's like if you advocate, because I think a bunch of us would probably agree, if you advocate to change the and to an or, it gives us a lot more flexibility in sort of how we do that. I just, again, I have one more, but Ms. Simon, I'll certainly defer to you.
Just related to that, I was just going to say I also went to an 8th grade civics presentation who had the same exact project, and they did a lot more math to they were counting calendar days and things like that, and I think they still had a little trouble making it work, but I think they got it there, but so I know it's on the students' mind.
Yeah, I also, I think in respect to Mr. Brooks' question, you're clearly aware that you got the responses you got. It's not necessarily a certain percentage, but it was, that's a significant number of people that you heard from. So I think that, if it were to be done statistically, it would have to look a little different, but that wasn't your purpose. Your purpose was to open up this idea to engage people, and I think that's really valuable, and it's for something that's important to you. I also want to just add two things. One is that the other side of this is, what's the purpose of having PD days, whether they're full or half? And as a school committee person and as a former teacher, to me, it's important that we look at how can they be valuable to helping our teachers improve their practice and help our students and increase their own ability to feel good about their jobs. So there's a whole nother aspect that, and I understand why you didn't ask the teachers that, how do we best meet the need for good professional development? And so even if it was 90% of the parents wanted it one way or the other, I might still want to consider what's the best way for teachers to get training, because that's the purpose. The purpose isn't to give kids the day off. The purpose is to have time for the teachers to meet, to collaborate, to get training, that kind of thing. So that's a whole nother aspect. If you ever were pursuing this further and talking to teachers and such, that's a piece of it I wanted to include in your thinking. The other thing,
just say something?
Yeah.
They did make a teacher survey, but I didn't. I didn't want you to think. I didn't want to come down here, like, 'cause it was all their project.
Yeah.
And I think between the union negotiations, the feelings of the teachers. So I didn't. I just was like, let's focus on, like, they'll find out from the teachers what they want. I want you to focus on the parents. So that was maybe I made a mistake with that, and I'm sorry.
That wasn't a mistake.
But that was I didn't want to come down here like, this is what we want, because it's not. It's about the students and the parents. So I apologize.
No,
that was
please,
my decision to.
Please don't apologize. It's a perfectly reasonable way to do the survey, and it answers certain questions. And I only raise it to have us think about what are the other questions. It's no need for an apology. It was not meant as a criticism of your project. It was meant as a amplification and expand what you're thinking about kind of question. My other comment is, in terms of hearing about the student responses, is what I kept hearing is that students are really stressed out, and students don't feel like they have enough time. And honestly, whether we have half days or full days, I feel like many students are going to put pressure on themselves to fill them up with an additional internship or an additional hours at their job, or whatever the thing may be, and stress for our students is a big concern of mine, and clearly it's on everybody's mind. And whatever we do with half days and full days for professional development, we still need to keep our eye on the issue of student stress. And so I want to acknowledge, because to me that was the biggest message, is student stress. And we are, I know, trying to address it in many ways, but clearly it needs to be continued. So that was my other comment. So, and Dr. Conti, you have more.
No, before we get to Mr. Brooks, I just wanted to say it was a conversation like this with students 2 years ago about their lunch experience that really made us think about the food we were serving and looking at things a different way. So there may not be immediate changes, but we do try to listen and incorporate some of what you do over time. So again, please, I guess, take that to heart, that your voices are very important. And again, I think you did an excellent job presenting. I also wanted to say that we're sometimes the idea with the bureaucracy is that it doesn't change, and we are trying some changes for next year, because we heard about the length of the school year. So one of the things we're doing is we're talking about half days or professional development days. The school committee worked with the teachers to approve a virtual day. So it's a day of professional development that doesn't impact the length of the school year. And so we're trying to think of things to do a little bit differently. So not just think of, again, a full in-person day or a half in-person day, but maybe can we think about learning in a little bit different way. So I think there's a lot of thinking going on that's aligned with this, and I think you really helped us with more thinking. So again, I just really having you even talk about this is just so important, because you really want to make sure the school days serve you well, because ultimately we're here to help you all. So that's what I would say. So that's great. Ms. Carey, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. Mr. Brooks, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Brooks can tell you his history as a paratrooper, which is someone who jumps out of airplanes. And if you took Ms. Carey's, did you teach a World War II course?
I teach a World War II course, not this year, but we do talk about Band of Brothers and the paratroopers and all that stuff.
And so
yes.
June 6th is a sort of a big day, so that happened, what was June 6th? Yesterday. And it's, again, there was a big battle on that day called D-Day, and again, Mr. Brooks isn't old enough to have participated in D-Days, but being that he was a paratrooper, he's in France now celebrating the anniversary of D-Day. And Mr. Brooks, so there are some, again, you see the students on camera, so I just want to, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about what you're doing and your experiences. You shared a brief note to me on email, which was just fascinating. And then understand that at the end, Ms. Carey is going to recruit you to speak to her class. So that's what I'm going to tell you. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, so I decided to come to D-Day, the 79th Memorial, with my brother, who also serves in a station in Germany. Like Dr. Conti said, I'm a former paratrooper. I've been awarded the Combat Parachutist Gold Star when I jumped into Operation Iraqi Freedom. So again, I lived some of the same experiences the folks did in World War II, not to the same extent or degree. So I felt it was one of those things I really needed to do as a bucket list item in my life to come and commemorate and pay homage to those that come before me, and then those trailblazers that became those paratroop test platoon in 1942, and then eventually made their way to Europe and then turned the tide in World War II. So I came over to do that and then share that experience with my brother and one of my good friends, Bobby Penn, who was also stationed with me at the 17th Special Tactics Squadron years ago, also a fellow paratrooper. So we came and kind of did that. So we've been to Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, currently staying in St. Mary Glees. I don't know if I can turn my camera around. If I can, I will. I can't. I'm staying in the center of St. Mary Glees, and there's a church in the center of the square where Private Joe Lee got stuck on top of the steeple and hid for 2 hours from the Germans until he was captured, escaped that night, and then continued on the fight to free Normandy. So again, lots of history here. Very humbling for me and awe-inspiring as a former service member to come and commemorate the folks that gave up there today so we can have our tomorrow.
So isn't that, and again, he's here joining you from France. So again, Mr. Brooks, you get the dedication award here today for joining us from France. Anyone have any questions? Dr. Gould, anyone? Could you hear that? Yeah. So just an amazing experience, and again, I'm sure Mr. Brooks would be open to coming in and talking about that experience if at all applicable to anybody. Again, Joyce is already recruiting you, so Mr. Brooks, you're going to probably be a featured speaker, I imagine. So
sounds great.
Any other last questions for the committee?
I just want to thank you for picking such a thoughtful, important topic to research and doing the work, and I look forward to seeing you all involved in all kinds of other activities going forward. The one thing I can think of, I know you're, let's see, 10th grade, so you're probably 15, 16 years old. Can't vote until you're 18, but you can register to vote when you turn 17. And a project maybe could be to run a voter registration drive at the high school for students who are 17 and older. So just, keep engaged and keep telling us what you're doing, because what you're doing is really important. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure we officially adjourned. We tried
Okay.
to officially.
We didn't, yeah. No, we're good?
Thank you all very much.
Yes.
And we're wrapping this up now.
Good.
Go enjoy France.